Hi, I'm Andrew from Ether Automation, and in this video, we're going to continue on in our ERP Creator app for manufacturers series. And in this video, we're going to cover syncing products and the inventory and the components for those products from Zoho Inventory into the app. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're going to set up an org variable, a standalone function, and then that standalone function we're either going to run on a cron, so like a timer, or in Creator it's called a schedule, or we can set it up with a webhook from inventory. I'm not going to set up either of those. I can actually include links to other videos where we can set those up, but we're going to create the function so that it can be called and run whenever you want for whatever your use case is. So with that being said, let's jump into this, and I will share my screen. And hopefully it is the right screen. Otherwise, this will be a short video. Okay, so I'm in Zoho Creator. A couple changes from our last video is, I went in and added some styling. If you notice that there's a change from the previous video to this one, that's what happened. So we're going to start out, and I am actually going to click Edit this application. First thing we want to do is we want to create an org variable. An org variable is basically a variable that gets used not on a particular module. I've covered them inside CRM, but if you look here, it's not actually available in Zoho Creator. So what do? We're just going to make a form for this. And this is just going to need a name and then a date time. And that's it. So I'm going to click Done. I'm going to click Access this application. And I'm just going to create one of these variables called product sync. And we're going to say the last runtime was back in September, right? We're going to submit it, and now it's in variables. So next thing we want to do is we're going to actually create the function that's going to run. So I'm going to click Edit this application again. I'm going to click Workflows, Functions. We're going to create a brand new function, and we are going to call this Sync Products from Inventory. The language is Deluge. The return type is Void. Let's create the function. So what does this function need to do? Well, first thing it needs to do is it needs to get last sync time from org variables, right? And this because we're only pulling in any products that were modified since the last sync. This is why we have this. But we also want to set current time to update org variable at the end. Okay, next thing we would want to do is we want to get products modified since last sync time in Zoho Inventory. Makes sense because we don't want to pull all of them in every single time. And then if composite item gets components from inventory, next thing we want to do is search for product in Creator, create product if not found, update product if found, and all of this is going to be inside of a loop. Update org variable. There we go. So that's all this function really needs to do. So let's kick this off. All right. Start with this first thing here because we have I got to remember where these tabs are. We have a variable called product sync. We're going to want to start there. So we want to get the last sync time. And we want to use the product sync as the name. There we go. So now we have the last runtime as his last sync time. And before we want to have a variable here that will set the next sync time. Next last sync time equals Zoho dot current time. Bam. So now we want to grab all the products from Zoho Inventory that were created since that were modified since the last runtime. So to do this, we are going to drag in invoke URL. I'm going to call this products from inventory. It's going to be a get. I'm going to just type in some random stuff here, and you'll notice that we don't actually have a connection. So I'm going to insert, and I'm actually going to comment this out. First thing we're going to want to do is create a connection. Now, if you're in Zoho Creator 6, you'll notice that that has changed locations where that is. So it is in microservices and connections. I'm going to click create new. I'm going to click connections. I'm going to search for Zoho. We're going to look for my favorite. We're going to look for Zoho OAuth. There we go. We're going to call it inventory. Now, at the moment, I actually have no idea which scopes we need. So let's go and check that right now. I'm going to search for Zoho Inventory API. And I'm going to go down to items, and I'm going to do list all items. And we need read. Zoho Inventory read. But I know we're going to update an item at another date. So let's go ahead and grab that now. Let's do updates. And let's also do composite items. Yeah. So I'm going to click create and authorize. Going to redirect me. We're going to redirect you back to creator. Super. So now if I go into this sync products from inventory, I can actually add this connection in here now. However, I'm going to need an actual URL. So I'm going to do this, this one item here for list all items. So now when I click execute, we've got all of our items in here. Now this is only for normal items and not for composite items. So we're going to make a variable because we need to parse it. Item list equals this dot get items dot to list. And now we want to push this through a loop. So for each record, so for each item in the item list, and let's move this outside the loop. We want to search for the product in creator. Product search equals products, go product ID, and then we'll say it's equals to the item dot get item ID. So when we search or fetch a record in creator, it comes in as a collection. So if it doesn't exist, to identify if there's nothing found, we're going to go if dot count, and we're going to count the ID field. If it's 0, then we know it's not found, and we're going to want to create it. Else, we are going to update the product. So to create a product, I'm going to drag in the add products, plug it right there. I'm going to put in a Z in each one of these for the moment. Let's click insert. So the added user is this, the allocated inventory and available inventory. Now, allocated inventory, we don't want to adjust. Available inventory, this is the total available inventory that we have. We do want to adjust that one. Average time we want to take out, bin location, ideal time we want to take out, but the product name, the SKU, the starting balance inventory we actually want to take out, and then the Zoho inventory product ID, we want to keep that one in. So let's go ahead and map these in. There we go. So I've taken out vendor. We're going to cover this in a later video. But this is what you'd want to do to add that product into inventory. So if we find a product, we're going to want to update that product. And that's very simple. It's the same logic here. Product search dots. And we actually want to have the same mapping here. And then finally, we want to update the org variable right at the end here. There we go. So this will work in most simple use cases. However, you may have noticed that this doesn't account for composite items. And for an ERP system, that's going to be critical because if you remember, we have these components required, right? And this will be important to fill out for any of this stuff to work. So what we're going to want to do, because this is going to get, right now we don't have the timing here, but what it's going to do is it's going to grab all the items. So before we search for this product in Creator, we're actually going to want to say, check to see if it's a composite item. And then if composite item gets components. So to check to see if it is a composite item, we're going to go item, if item.get, I believe it's called is combo product. Yours might be named a little bit different, but if is combo product equals true, then this is a composite item, and we want to get the components. And to do that, we want to do something similar to what we did up here. So we've got our organization ID that we want to update, and then we actually want the composite item ID in here. So I'm going to end that, click plus, and then plus and start one, and we actually want the item ID, much like down here, we want that item ID. Boom. And this will give us the products, that entire composite product, including the mapped items. Okay, recording died a bit. So we're going to get the components required, and we're going to put them into a list called items list internal. And then down here we have this list, this loop, where we're going to add each of the components as products into the system. But also up here, we still want to add the components, right? So I'm going to say composite item flag equals false. And then if it is composite item, we're going to say composite item flag equals true. And then if we don't find it, we are going to want to create the product. We want to create it with the internal items. So let's go ahead and do that. So create product not found. So if composite item flag equals false, then it's created like it is now. Else, we want to create it with the components. So we're going to copy the same information. And let's make this a little cleaner. Since subforms are weird and it's going to need its own video, I'm just going to add in the spaces where we'd want to add this in the next video. So to do add subform. There we go. And then down here, we have this thing that's going to add each of the components into the system as well. So that should be able to pull in all your products, all the components. It won't add the components to the products yet. We're going to cover that in the next video. The other thing I want to show you there is the list. So back up here, we have this URL to list all products. Fairly helpful, but we want to have it by, we want to filter it by or sort by the last modified date. So we're going to add a question mark here, and we're going to say sort column equals last modified time. So this is going to show us the most recently modified time product first. And then here we're going to have a quick check. So if item dot gets last modified time. If it's less than the last sync time, so we want to catch to see if it's less than, because time moves forward, so the number gets larger. Then we want to do something called a break, which will exit the loop and go right down to this bottom here. So now I can click save and I can click execute. And there you go. Just 45 minutes of bug fixing later, and your products are synced. So now if I go into Zoho Creator, I can access this application. There should be a bunch of new products there waiting for me. There we are. I've got my Composite product, and we'll cover this on the next one, as well as all the components for that one. This one was from our previous video. So in the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover modifying this to add in the Composite, the component products into the subform, let's say here, right? We're going to get those in here because it's a little bit different how it's going to work. We're going to set up a webhook from Zoho Inventory to send those over. And if I look at my variables, this has been updated from September when we originally set it to today. I hope you found this video helpful. I'll see you in the next video.